Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a new build. It's a 2007 Honda Civic Si sedan for when you need to pick up the kids at 3 but need to be at race wars by 4. So it's got the 2-liter in it, the K20A engine, pretty strong engine for this little car, and a 6-speed manual transmission. At least I think it's a manual. It's got one of those extra pedals, no park, and a bunch of neutrals. So I'm guessing it's a manual. And wait for it, it has only 43,000 miles. It is the lowest mile Honda Civic Si wrecked in the country by like 100,000 miles. So I picked it up. It's worth fixing. It's also a rust-free Texas car. The paint's a little faded on it. We can't blame the Texas sun for that. Honda had a problem with it, so we're going to blame Honda for that one. I'm sure the Texas sun didn't help. We got a little bit of somebody's been here before to fix up here, and a whole lot of somebody didn't stop in time to fix back there. So let's take a look at that. So whatever was behind it didn't stop in time, caught the top of the bumper and crushed our deck lid and rear body panel. I caught enough of the bumper reinforcement that it did crumple up the frame rail in the back here. So the job is pretty much going to be a very similar job to the Lexus IS250 that we just did. We won't have to change the quarter, but we're definitely going to have to change that rail, straighten out a little piece of the floor, deck lid, taillights, rear bumper, bumper reinforcement, and put a body work up here. That should be it. Then we're going to have to paint all this stuff. So, I mean, it doesn't look that bad, but apparently it got hit so hard all the parts just fell off. Now I'm sure the experts are going to tell me that the body shop took it apart, and they'd actually be right in this case. I did get a bucket of bolts and one taillight and a rear bumper. Missing the other taillight and all the stuff that goes in the trunk. So I'm going to need to buy all that. But luckily I bought a whole other car for parts, and if you want to check up there, there's a link to that video so you can see me taking all this stuff apart that you don't get to see me now. So let's start taking this apart, at least what's left of it, and get to working on it. So the somebodies that were here before, nice paint job here, but they zip tied the bumper on. There's a bracket in there, I imagine it's broken, and the zip ties might actually cost more than the $2 bumper bracket. I don't know why they did that. Someday I'll get a hold of those somebodies. So the first thing we have to do is remove all the liners from the inside of our trunk. These side liners are the only things that left us back there. No spare tire, no jack, no bottom liner, no spare tire cover, nothing. Now they did leave us some stereo wiring, aftermarket stuff, which we're going to have to take out and throw in the pile. So there's just a couple little twisting clips. Unscrew the centers of them and pop them out of there. There is one Christmas tree in the bottom, and I didn't feel like walking to get the fork, so we'll just pull that one out. And then we're going to have to walk to get the fork anyway to get the Christmas tree up in the front out. And now we can pull our liner out of here. A little wedged in there. The side's a little smaller than it's supposed to be. This side should come out a little easier. Pull our little clips out of it. Untangle it from our wiring harness. Christmas tree on the floor was already missing off this side, so we just need the one up in the front. And our liner is out. Now we can take the wiring harness out of our deck lid. Somebodies that have been here before unplugged everything, but they never took the deck lid off, so I would imagine they were in the middle of working on this thing, and the adjuster came out and said we're totaling it, and they just kind of stopped where they were. Because it really makes no sense why they would have taken the wiring harness off and not pulled the deck lid off. So you only have to fish it back out of here, which is a little difficult since it's squished. And we'll get them out. And now we can unbolt our deck lid. There's just 4 bolts. They're self-aligning. And before we take that last one out, we're going to put a towel underneath the corner of the deck lid before we end up putting it through the back glass and end up with a 1,000,000-piece puzzle. We'll set that corner down, and we'll go over the other side. It's a lot easier if you got 2 people, but I don't have any friends, so it looks like I'm doing this solo.
And Mr. Spotty doesn't seem to be helping much. He's just hanging out. So we'll take this and set it off to the side. Can't throw it in the pile just yet. We're going to need some parts off of it.
Looks like that same somebody that did that awesome work on the fender also got to the roof, spray canned it, so I think we're gonna paint the roof. Well, I forgot to mention, this car also has a clear title.
So now we have our used deck lid from Scott's Honda Emporium. So we're gonna put it up here and see how it fits, just to give us an idea where everything's at and how bad our day is gonna be. We'll set it on our little pads and folded up towels. Put our bolts in our hinges. Want to make sure that everything lines up with the quarter, our hinges aren't bent. We're just going to stuff our wiring harness in there so it's not getting in our way. And we'll see how our gaps look. Not good. We're going to need to do a little work. So we'll put our porta power in here. Going to use the top of the strut, push back on the taillight pocket just to open it up a little bit. Get that body panel at the top pushed out a little, and the taillight pocket. See how much of this we can save. Moves pretty easy, not much to it. So we'll get a better bite on it. We're only trying to move our body panel, taillight pocket, and maybe a little piece of the quarter. That lower frame rail's high strength steel, it's not going to move. But at least we can get all this top stuff back where it belongs, or at least close to it. A little stress relieving, straighten out these brackets at the top. We don't want to change them, they go way back under the quarter. So we're going to straighten them. They're just wrinkled up at the end. Now we'll get our porta power out of the way. We'll pull our trunk gasket off before we destroy it anymore. Would have been better to take that off before. Now I got to go around the deck lid. Not a big deal. We'll set that off to the side. We'll use this one to test fit everything. And then we'll throw our used one on there that doesn't have any damage on it. We're going to straighten out the rest of our body panel. We got Big Bertha here. See how far we can get it out. This should bring out our body panel enough on the right side to get our taillight pocket to fit. It's moving. There's really not a lot of support up here. See how our deck lid fits? Does it latch? Nope. How close are we? Not close enough. So we'll give it a couple more hits, see if we can get it any closer. And it's seemed to stop moving.
Almost. Ship it.
So that's what our floor looks like. Spare tire well is wrinkled up. There's a little piece of the floor that goes up above that rail. And it's wrinkled pretty good. That rail is high strength steel, but everything around it is not. And that's what the rail looks like from the bottom. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. Absorbed all the impact. So now we're going to have to get this body panel out of our way. So we're going to unclip our wiring harness. Save all the clips. We can unbolt the ground. And stuff our wiring harness back up front so we aren't getting it caught on anything. We're going to unbolt our reinforcement. Don't have to heat these up, they come right off. Kind of nice.
Wow.
Now we can unbolt our little extensions for our reinforcement. This one's a little smashed. You know what we do with it.
In the pile.
There's a cover that goes underneath our spare tire well. It's just got some push-in clips, so we'll pop those off. This one on the side's a little smashed in there, so we're gonna try and save it. And then we're gonna accept that it's gonna have to die for this rebuild to carry on. So we just tear its head off.
I win.
So hopefully we'll be able to save this one. Not all clips make it through. Up in the front, there's a couple bolts, so we'll unbolt those. And our shield is off of there. I'm really sure what it does. Just covers it up. We're going to unbolt our extension from the passenger side. This one's not quite a smash, but still no good. I have one, so we'll throw it in a pile. We'll knock off our seam sealer so we can see our spot welds on the bottom of the body panel. And we'll start grinding off all the spot welds with the die grinder. I'm going to upset the tool expert. Well, the safety experts will be happy because I am wearing eye protection and hearing protection. Still no gloves, but take the wins you can get, guys. I'm going to grind off all of our spot welds. Then we need to grind off all the seam sealer so we can see the spot welds. Honda decided to coat everything with seam sealer. Half the weight of this car. So you just take off the top layer. You don't have to worry about the part that's filling in the spot welds. It actually kind of highlights them for you. Now we're going to drill out those spot welds with our 1/8 inch drill bit. Then we're going to go over it with our 6mm because we want to be diverse and use both metric and standard sizes. Grind the rest of these spot welds off. And we'll grind the rest of these down here. Now we're going to get our reciprocating butter knife out. And we're going to cut our rear body panel. We're not going to cut all the way through because we do need that floor section. So we're going to cut down to the floor. And if I get it right, I won't go through the floor. Hammer out our body panel, break it loose. Now we'll cut from the bottom up, hopefully not through the floor again. Really tempting fate here. A little pull and break out that little piece in between. Now we can start knocking our body panel loose from the spare tire well down at the bottom. Instead of getting the breaker in there, we'll just hammer it from the inside and snap those spot welds right out of there. This metal's pretty thin, so it comes right out. Now we'll get the breaker in here. Can't hammer on everything. We're saving that taillight pocket. But this inner brace goes up on the inside of it. And on the bottom here, our body panel goes up underneath the taillight pocket. And we'll knock it off our quarter and the floor. Still a lot of seam sealer holding it together. So we'll have to get rid of our breaker, get the assault breaker. We need to get further up there. The one we're starting to smash the handle. We're going to peel the outer panel up so that we can grind out the spot welds on the inner panel. You don't want to grind all the way through both of them because it could go too far into the next panel and we got problems. We're going to trim this off a little bit. Couldn't get to the last one, so we'll be able to peel it back now. Let me cut that down off. Trim a little more. We can peel it out of the way. And we got a little room to get to our spot welds that were hidden behind it. We grind those out. And we can knock what's left of those spot welds out of there. And our body panel is free to go in a pile. Now we're going to push out our frame rail a little bit. We're not trying to straighten it to get it straight. We're trying to straighten it to unwrinkle that floor so we can see the spot weld that's actually right in the center of that wrinkle. We have the porta power up against the 6x6, which is stretched across the back. it kind of disperses the weight. If you were to put the porta power right against something, you're going to end up bending that instead of moving this piece, because this is pretty tough stuff. And it still won't move it. So we're just going to hit it with Big Bertha to give it a little hand. Then we'll put a little more pressure on our porta power and keep hitting it. Just trying to extend it enough so we can see that spot weld that we're trying to get to. Keep working it. And now we can see all of our spot welds. They're pretty stressed and partially broken, so we don't have to drill them. We can just slide our scraper in there and break them loose. Straighten the back of the floor here and release our porta power. Now we're going to trim the rest of this out of here. We're going to take out part of the rail, part of the floor, and what's left of our body panel. And if we're lucky, that's all we're going to take. So we cut through our body panel, cut across it. Now we're going to cut across our frame rail, and this is going to make our saw very unhappy. Really turn it into a butter knife. This is why I have nothing but dull saw blades. High strength steel, doesn't even matter with Diablo blades, it will eat them up. So by the time we're done, there'll be no teeth left on this blade. But that's not going to stop me from using it. So we got almost all the way through. Can't cut anymore because it's under the floor, so we're going to try and wiggle it. It's not coming out of there, so we're going to go get our favorite tool. That'll help us out. Just about half an inch of metal that we need to take out of there. So we'll cut through it. I win. Even though we straightened it out a little bit, it's still pretty wrinkled. So that's where our frame rail goes up in the front, so we're going to replace that back section. And we got just this little kink to take out of our floor here. No big deal. We're also going to change the other piece of the floor that is up above the rail. So we move the car over to our non-portable frame rack. Should this become a portable frame rack, this video is going to end abruptly. I'm hoping a Civic can't pull the building down. So we just put a little tension on the come along and hammer and dolly this out. Get the wrinkles out of there that aren't supposed to be in there, and the wrinkles that are supposed to be in there back in there. Takes a little time, get it right, but still better than changing that whole panel that goes all the way up in the front. And it's not structural. Those are not crumple zones. Those are actually just stiffeners to make that piece a little more rigid. And this is all I have to straighten. I did take measurements on our frame rail from where our new frame rail would sleeve into it, and everything was correct ahead of it. So it was only isolated to just that rear piece. So we've got it out as far as we need it to go. We can move on to the next part. Getting this quarter straight. It was buckled in a little bit, so we're just trying to pull out the rest of our body panel here that's still attached to the quarter. Now we're going to hammer on it, start to leave it, get our kinks out of it. And if you're wondering, I did intentionally leave this little portion of the body panel in there so I had something to grab onto. It was not just a happy accident. A little more tension on it. And we'll hammer on the floor for a little bit. Even though we're going to cut it off, it helps move everything else. See how our quarter's fitting. We'll get everything a little straighter. And we might have put a couple little dents in there from our clamp, but we can hammer those out later. We'll pull this bumper bracket off. Phillips screw spreads out the clip that's on the inside, so you just pull that out, and you can push the tabs in. And then use your scraper as a hammer to tap it out of there. I know, it's the wrong hammer. Now we can release the clips on the other ones. Those came out like they were supposed to. And we saved our bracket. Now we can pull our vent out of here. Just a couple tabs you squeeze, pops out. And we'll start drilling out the spot welds and take out what's left of our rear body panel and our taillight pocket. We can drill these all the way through because we need to weld through the holes in the quarter onto our body panel. We didn't drill those out, so we'll have a backing. If I grind it out, it's because whatever I'm grinding, I need the panel underneath. This one, I don't need the panel underneath, so. And these are 6mm welds once again. It's not the usual 5/16 or 8mm that we use on every other car. But on Honda, I like to use smaller welds. A lot of the Asian cars do. Because they're welding together much thinner metal. So they don't need the big thick 8mm. They do use them occasionally, but for the most part, these are all 6mm. Drill out the spot welds at the top of our quarter and then our taillight pocket. And now we can use our breaker to break all these spot welds loose. I know, it's not actually a breaker, but that's okay because I'm also using the wrong hammer. So 2 wrongs make a right. So this is the correct way to do this job. At least that's my logic. And it also works. It means it must be the right way. One last weld up at the top. It looks like it's loose. Put some seam sealer in there. And then we'll break the rest of it loose. That hammer wasn't the right one. So we'll get a bigger hammer. Now it's loose. Get it out of our way. And we'll cut that last little strip out since we have to pull the tire off to get the other spot welds. Well, that sounds like work, so I'm not doing that right now.
So that's as far as we're going to go on our little Civic here for today. We got everything all cut out except for the rest of the rail over there, which is probably going to be the worst part of the entire job. So we'll save it for next time. Then we'll get our new piece in here and hopefully get it all welded up. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.